was in about 4th grade, I remember this as being one of the first lessons in standing up for myself, because people in New Jersey, just whatever they're thinking is what they say. There's no filter. And at the time in my life, I had younger siblings. Only my dad was working, a pastor in a small church. We didn't have a lot of money. And my sneakers were in really bad shape. Sneakers are tennis shoes, so in case you didn't know, because not everybody plays tennis, especially in New Jersey, okay? We're trying to get on the basketball court. And so we were going out to recess. I couldn't wait to play with my friends. And we started to play some game where we all had to put our sneakers into a circle, and someone was counting off to tell you what team you were on. And I got so excited, and then without thinking, my sneakers were in really bad shape just because money was really tight. And so my friend, you know that friend that you want to cut, her, when she got to my sneakers, she was like, "Your sneakers are gross." And in that moment, I felt a lot of things. I felt hurt. I felt sad, mainly for my parents because they loved me, that new sneakers had to wait till the next paycheck. But then I felt mad, and I felt Jersey mad. And there's a difference. And I looked at her and I said, "I can get new sneakers, but what about your face?" Yup. You can have that for free. You don't have to give me credit. Take that with you. It wasn't my finest moment, or maybe it was. Who's judging? All I know is in that moment, I learned to speak up for myself, and probably not in the best way. But maybe some of you are like me in that as you were young, people told you things like you're bossy, or you always have to be in control. And it's like, no, I just have better ideas than you. That's just how God made me. You're all nodding your heads, yeah, see? But as young women, regardless of whether you were raised in the beautiful Orange County, Southern California, or New Jersey, right outside of Philly, where you had to speak up before you got punched, there's something inside all of us, something deep inside all of us as women, that are questioning what our purpose is, why we were made the way that we were made, why were we designed the way that we were designed, what are we supposed to do in this life with who we've been created to be. And I remember not long after that 4th grade experience, as I got older and older and started to kind of really figure out who I am as a woman and what I wanted to do with my life, someone said to me one time, and I've never forgotten it, "Never apologize for who you are." We women suffer from something called shrinkback syndrome. And when we come on as too much, we kind of get that settle down, that hand, that you're a little too much. And I want to refute that in your life today, because I think you are uniquely designed, uniquely created to do something in this world that only you were designed to do. And how are you going to figure that out? Right? How are you going to figure that out? What is so special about you? I'm sure that in a room this size, there's some of you who've been abused, betrayed, rejected. Someone chose you and then changed their mind. And maybe there's a voice inside you that has convinced you really don't have that much to offer. And you hide behind fake smiles and you go along to get along, but deep inside, there's a longing in your heart because you're just not convinced that you matter that much. And I want you to know today that the reason why I love this organization, what it stands for, is because you were designed for something more. Something more than what's just happening in your life today. I believe that if you don't discover and pursue what your own personal something more is, there's a life that's going to go untouched. There's something that's going to go undone because you haven't discovered that thing that God has created you to be. And here's how I think you start to find that. You start with 2 questions. Who am I? Now, after a couple mimosas, you're like, is that a tricky question? Or Melody, I thought no. I get, what your name is, but no. Who are you? When do you feel most alive? Hopefully not after a couple of mimosas. When does your pulse quicken? When do you get filled with a sense of purpose and drive? Have you been a part of something that as you were doing that you said to yourself, I was born for this. I was born to do this. You know, for me, as I started to kind of figure out who I was, I remember a friend said, just write down qualities about yourself. And I was like, all right, well, I'm short. She was like, let's think a little deeper. I said, yeah, looking people in the eye is overrated. My husband is 6'4", and so, yeah, because my mom said, you have a big mouth, you better marry somebody big. I was like, check, done. Jersey, take him. But as I started to really think about who I was, and I started to write down things about me, here's what I started to realize. I always want to defend the underdog. I never want someone to be taken advantage of. I'm passionate. I lead teams well. I look around and I see obstacles and I think that's just something to be conquered. That's nothing that's going to stand in my way. And my friend said, you're not allowed to write anything negative, because we're good at that, aren't we? We're really good at knowing what we're not good at or what other people have told us. But let me tell you something. When you walk in the power of who God made you to be, their labels don't matter. They don't define you. Who am I? And then the second question goes even deeper. What breaks your heart? Do you know what breaks your heart? Do you spend enough time seeing the world and seeing people around you to know what breaks your heart? If you can answer the question of what breaks your heart, you're on the verge of changing the world. It was only about 6 years ago that my husband said to me that he was going to go on a missions trip for 10 days. I'm like, are you going on a secret vacation? Because we have 2 kids, and that wasn't going to be okay with me. And he said, no, I really think I'm supposed to go. And so I did the nice wifely thing, and I supported him. And he went for 10 days to Ethiopia. While I was in Ethiopia, we would have real spotty coverage, but sometimes we were able to Skype. And I could look at his face and tell that his heart was breaking. His heart was breaking from what he was seeing and what he was experiencing every day. And I was, again, really supportive. And then when he came home, we would look at the pictures together. And again, I would feel my heart starting to break for what he was showing me. And then he came to one picture in particular. He said this was taken at the orphanage. He said, when I said goodbye to this little boy, I felt like I was leaving my son there. And I said, well, that's really sad. I wasn't open at all to what he was sort of talking about, so I changed the subject. But we kept coming back to it. And here's what he said. He said, all I'm going to ask you to do is pray about it. Well, don't you know God has a way of saying when you start to pray about something, God has a way of answering our prayers. It's like sometimes I really don't want you to answer. But I started to pray. I just started to pray and see what God wanted to do. And somehow, 3 months later, I almost lost my 40-year-old husband to a heart attack. Right in our bed, with my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old across the hallway, we faced death right in the eye. And we got on the other side of that, and he was healing and recovering. He said to me, this is our only life. We have got to make it count. And that was when God answered my prayer and said, you asked me, and I'm telling you that this is what you're supposed to do. So we began the hardest 3.5-year process of our lives of trying to adopt that little boy from that picture. And in March of 2016, we brought him home. I could have never told you prior to that I would ever want to be an adoptive mom, because it's really hard. Adoption always sounds glorious, and then when you get them home, you're like, I have to be a mom to you too? Oh my gosh. I wasn't that great with 2, and now 3. All the prayers, Lord. But it was answering the call. It was discovering my something more. It was being willing to look beyond what was right in front of me. Your life is never going to slow down. Your life is never going to be less chaotic. You're never going to have less things to do, places to go, or friends to meet with. You're always going to have a busy calendar. But I think what I want to challenge you with today is, but what else could there be for you? And I want you to leave today not content to just stay where you are, but to maybe ask the hard question of God, who am I and what breaks my heart? And what could I do in the world around me? Just listening to some of the mentorship opportunities, reading about some of these nominees for Woman of the Year, Women, let me tell you something. I am convinced that a band of women in this world who are convinced that they were uniquely designed to do something is an unstoppable force in this world. And if we all decide that we're going to pursue our something more, we will change the world, and you will be a part of it. So I hope that you know today, number one, that you're extremely valuable and loved for who you are, by the God who uniquely designed you and created you to be who you are. And through his love and through his grace, he will lead you to something even better. God bless you guys. Thanks for letting me speak today.